Yo, JD here, Tyrolemus, and as you can see, we are back with another AWR video here today, and this is round 3 of season 12 in the F1 League on the Xbox. Well, we almost said 360 there, but Xbox One now, so my third league race ever on the Xbox One, and this is the qualifying lap, so this is on the super soft tyres. And again with Australia, I wasn't really practicing with these tyres. I was actually using the softs because you want to do as least amount of stops as possible. So I pretty much only did about 2 or 3 runs out of the whole week or throughout the week in practice regarding this. So this was a pretty alien to me, but nonetheless it was quite a good lap. And I managed to get in a decent banker lap first, but still with a 34.2, if I can read my screen, was only in 4th place, so I was quite surprised at that. But again, that shouldn't really be because the field is just so competitive this season. And to reflect on my season so far, Australia I was actually happy afterwards because I did next to no wet practice and most of the race was in the wet, so I couldn't really complain because my pace was really good, despite being really cautious. But I felt like I had some serious pace if I could actually pull it together. So that's quite promising for the rest of the season whenever it's wet. Managed to get to 5th place, but probably should have got a podium, should have, maybe even a 2nd place if things went a little bit better my way. But again, strategy again, which seems to be one of my big weaknesses through my own fault with myself and a few other things, which I'm going to talk about in this video here today. So actually came out in 5th for that one, so a little bit disappointed. And then Bahrain came out in 3rd place, and I was actually reasonably happy with that because I just put on the wrong setup and I couldn't have really got anything better than that. So I did the maximum I could do despite having a bad qualifying. But today we've actually qualified 3rd, so we are improving in qualifying each time, and it's a really big thing that to get us high up on the grid as possible, because I'm just not a great qualifier. I don't really practice qualifying, which is probably the reason why I just don't really practice qualifying. I'm quick in time trial, but that's because I do a lot of laps. But yeah, I just don't really do qualifying that much, and my strength is a lot more consistency in the race space. So you can see here 4 lights, 5 lights, and you can see it's a full wet race. So we've underfueled our car, and we've still got on the dry setup. I think I'm using 87 wings for this one, which is the same as what I used in my hot lap video, but a few little tweaks here and there. But I'll be making a few different videos on that soon. So you can see we actually got up into 2nd place ahead of Flying Finn at the moment, going on the curb, trying to go middle of the track, and there's actually massive contact between me and Flying Finn, but somehow we've managed to just keep it on the track, and I thought that was game over. I thought that was completely done. And to be honest, looking back on that footage, I probably should have left him a little bit more room. As we go down the outside of Dizzy Cupid now, so I know how aggressive he is, so got to be a little bit cautious for this. But I was so determined to win this race because in the qualifying session I knew it was going to be full wets, which I've said on other videos before, and maybe if you see my wet hot laps, and I think I did like a wet social round Japan where I uploaded a bit of that. I actually think I'm better in the wet than I am in the dry, and not by just a little bit. I think I'm a lot better in the wet than I am in the dry. I'm still quick in the dry, but I just haven't really discovered my full potential, especially in qualifying in the dry yet. But in the race I'm good, but in the wet I just feel so comfortable, because it reminds me of a game I used to play called PGR4, which some of you guys may actually know, or you may have played it yourself. But that game had the weather, had the snow, ice, like sleet, everything, and so you had like over 100 cars to drive, and the control you had to have on the traction, the control, and the trail braking as well. You even had to trail brake in that game, was just absolutely insane, and it just feels the same as this. So I absolutely love these conditions. I would take a full wet race every single race without a doubt. If someone said to me dry or a full wet race, I would say full wet race, hands down, because I just absolutely love driving it. So you can see now we're in 2nd place, but we've actually started to close in on Martin, and obviously he's ahead of us in the championship at the moment. He's had a few good results. He won the last race, so it's really important that I get a good result here. It was really important. I did quite a bit of practice, a lot more than what I did for the previous 2 rounds, so I felt pretty prepared for this race. And looking at the strategy beforehand, looks like it was full wets, easing off at the end of the race, so similar to Australia. But one thing I want you to pay attention to is I've actually got my race engineer on. I 100% confirm that I've got him turned on, but he's not speaking to me ever. Unless I missed it in this recording, you can tell me if I've missed it or something, but I've never heard him speak to me once, and he's turned on fully. So yeah, that wasn't that great, but at the time I wasn't even thinking of that at all. I was just so focused on just hunting Martin down, because I know what kind of driver he is. I know he's someone who really gains confidence when you're not catching him. If he's putting a gap on you and he's going purple, then that just really feeds his confidence. And it was so important for me to just not let him get away, to just keep that gap, just to make sure he doesn't pull away at all, because I know you can get under the skin a little bit. If you start to close him down a little bit, he may make some mistakes, even though he's really resilient. But from racing with him in the past, I know if you put him under a little bit of pressure and you can show you're actually faster than him, then maybe some inconsistencies can come in there. So right now we're driving very good at the moment. You can see we're using a lean mix quite a bit throughout this race. So lean mix is really important, and you can see going into this corner here, watch the braking, 100%, and now about 50, and Martin's actually gone out wide. So that's what I mean. Put a little bit of pressure, and this is the same for all drivers. If you're under pressure, it's going to be very hard to concentrate, but that's the first mistake, and I was just feeding off that. I was just hoping he'd make more mistakes and put even more pressure in. And right now, driving absolutely balls to the wall at the moment, and I was so happy with how I was driving. You can see we've got a little bit of a gap behind us, so we're pulling away from Ciaru, who I said before this race in the dry was a danger man for this, looking after the tyres. But this wet tyres are really easy to look after. They can almost last, well, you'll be able to see they can last a long time in this race. So I wasn't really too concerned. But this corner here, I think, is the corner I was gaining the most time. So lean mix, and you can see short shift and fourth, about 90% throttle, and then going full throttle. And I felt I was getting a lot of time through that corner, and also under braking. You'll be able to see throughout this next lap, under braking I was getting a lot of time. So going into here, this should be a really good example of what trail braking is. So going in 100%, then easing off the brakes really slowly. So you can see just before I turn to the corner, go from about 100%, 90, 80, and then slowly go off. And that's the key, because if you just go 100% on the brakes while you're turning, you just go lock up, and that's pretty much it. So you can see now we are well within distance. I was almost going to say DRS, but we wouldn't want to use DRS on this straight, because then we would just catapult off into a wall. But we're well within the time of Martin now, and I was feeling confident at this point. I was feeling really good. But something I should have been thinking about really is the strategy, because as I mentioned earlier, my engineer wasn't talking to me, and before the race it looked like it was going to ease off. But looking at these conditions, I felt it was easily full wet. It didn't look anything like changing to intermediates at this point. But right now, as I said, I wasn't focusing on the strategy at all. I was just purely focused, looking on the rear end of that Mercedes and just trying to get past him. And if I could get past him, it's going to be a lot harder for him to follow because of the dirty air, and also just the spray behind as well. And you can see we're just gaining on the corners at the moment. So I don't know if it could be a setup or just a different driving styles. But right now, as I said, I just feel really good in these conditions. It just feels effortless for me to drive in these conditions. So I was really enjoying it. Coming to here now, so we should get a good example of this, of the speed we're going to get. So trail braking to that corner, going to third, going to fourth gear reasonably early, take a nice wide line, and you want to hit the apex as late as possible, pretty much as late as possible, stay nice and tight. He's gone a little bit out wide again, so another little mistake, and now we've got the slipstream with a reasonably low downforce setup, considering it's wet, which I've done in wet hot lap videos. I'll use like 11.9, but we have to use it because of the qualifying and the dry, and it's working really well. So trail braking really extensively for this corner and trying to get a good traction off here. So not really looking to overtake for this, but I knew again this last corner, I think Martin takes quite a late apex, but we going really early. So you can see really early there, he goes a little bit off from the curb, and if you hit that, it's really easy to smell. I mean, we've just cruised past him into turn one, so just pure traction. We've got him into turn one, and right now I was feeling good. I was feeling really confident, and I really wanted to just push on, just to try and break away from him, just to really try and get under the skin, if I'm being honest, just to break away from him and just show that I've got the pace over him in this race. So we make a little bit of mistake into his breaking a little bit too ambitious into this corner, but again, was hoping to get a really good exit off here, and if I could get a good exit, then it should be pretty safe. I was feeling pretty good for the rest of the race. If I could, as long as I didn't get in the battle with him and didn't let Ciaru catch up. But you can see now he's lagging a little bit this race. I think the connection was not really great for all drivers this race, but you can see doesn't really have an opportunity to overtake here. So go trail brake again, braking very, very late in the wet for these conditions, but the brake settings I was using was working really, really well. Coming to this last corner, trying to do an early apex as you hit the banner, take half the curb on this one. Try not to run this too much, and you can see the little dot there opening up a little gap, and this was working perfectly into my hands. So you can see lap 10. I think we'll just go skip through the laps now just to show of what the gaps were. I can't actually read it on my screen, but you can just look at the mini map below. Hopefully visually you can see that we were just driving just super consistent, just driving really, really well, using rich on the straight. So every little straight you can use the rich just to maximize it, but lean is a really big must for what you need to use. And you can see now we've got a pretty big gap, the guys behind. I don't know how many seconds that is, maybe 2 or 3 seconds or something like that. So even if you got a penalty for just running out wide or something, it's looking pretty good at the moment. So end of lap 13 now, and now the guys behind me are starting to battle as well, which is just even more working into my favour. So when those kind of things happen, it really just makes you drive even better, because you know you pretty much got the race under control unless something pretty dramatic actually happens, like a safety car. But we don't even have a safety car on at the moment, so if we keep it under control, you know, we've got 12 laps of the race left now. You can see the gap again. It's a pretty big gap. And looking at the conditions, something I want to talk about now. Right now, I'm driving in these conditions, and it just felt like full wet. I know there's a little bit of a line you can see there, but we even had that at the start of the race. The clouds have got a little bit lighter, but for me, and from playing many F1 games, you know, I no way even thought this would be intermediate conditions. I wouldn't even think of it at all, because the pace is dropping off a little bit now, but that's because our tyres are like on 70-80% wear, so that's something I would expect. But you can see still got pretty good traction, a little bit squirmish through here, but let's see what it's like for the fast left. See, again, it just feels pretty similar to what it was at the start of the race, and at this point I just wasn't even thinking of changing tyres. I was so sure that it was going to be wets again. And yeah, that will lead me on to when we do pit. You'll be able to see what happened if you haven't guessed already. But yeah, right now I was just thinking I'm just going to let the guys behind me pit. I've got a nice big lead. I'm going to let them pit, so even if they get an undercut on me, I'll just come out on fresher tyres. And even if they got past with 2 or 3 lap fresher tyres, then we'll just be able to just re-overtake them again. So now we're losing traction a little bit now, but again, it's still pretty controllable, because on previous games, when it went from, you can see the wear there, when it went from like full wets to intermediates, and it was definitely intermediates and you're on full wets, then it was pretty much almost undrivable. We could do so, sort of braking at the similar point, going a little bit in deep, so you can see we're starting to lose the car a little bit now, but we haven't changed tyres, we haven't spoken to our engineer, and at this point, I probably should have gone on race director. I probably had enough time to really just pause it and go on the thing there, and I just completely messed up the commentary. So hopefully it goes on. Thing there, please. So yeah, at this point I should have really just gone on the race director and just to see what tyres the guys were on behind, because I had enough time in my pocket really on the straights to do that. But you can see behind me, it looks like the guys are still wet because they stayed out, so I didn't know what tyres the guys were on. And looking at the conditions, how much spray I'm getting as well, and the track and the clouds and everything, and my tyres not dropping off that badly, put on another set of wet, so going out, and I could see Finn is on the intermediates, and I was thinking, what is he doing? And then I saw ARR reversal is on intermediates, and yeah, at this point pretty much realised, and I realised in 2 or 3 corners time, because of just the traction he was getting, my car still felt good. It still felt controllable. I'm coming out here, it still felt the same as in the first stint, and I saw in how much spray there is on the track, but I can see the line. But there was that kind of line in the first stint as well. I just didn't even think of changing tyres, and just seeing that and knowing that the race was lost after driving that well in the first stint was probably like one of the most painful experiences I've had in league racing. It was just so demoralising, really, to be honest, because this season I'm not able to take it as serious as I was in previous seasons, but obviously I still want to win. And through practice for this in the full wets and even in the dry, I was super confident in the dry as well on the soft tyres. I was looking seriously good in that as well, almost as good as I was on the wets. I felt this was my race to lose, really, if I got a good start, and I thought I had the race under control completely. And yeah, just looking at the spray here again, like I would never think this would be intermediates, but it is what it is. You make mistakes. I can't really blame the game. The only thing I can blame on the game is just not having an engineer, because I know, speaking to other drivers, that sometimes, quite often, the engineer will say you need to pit on the intermediates, so it just tells you that you need to go on the intermediates. But I should have really done it myself. Of just looking at the race director and just assuming, just looking at the in the pits basically beforehand, when it was going like light rain at the end. I should have just assumed that you just had to go on the intermediates, and this is exactly what happened in Australia pretty much as well. In terms of weather wise, this is what happened. So it seems the game, if you got light rain at the end, you've got 1 drop of rain, then that means whenever you pit, you just go on the intermediates. That's pretty much what it means. But yeah, it's just a really crappy way to lose a race, and it would have really helped me, because I would have got a 3rd place or 5th place and then a win. That would have put me right back in the championship, pretty much level on points, almost, or right back in with the guys in the championship. But coming out of here now, I was really pumped. I never give up in races. I may say I give up outside of races, but I never give up in the races themselves. So we're going to try and salvage as much as we could. I was still hoping to maybe get like a 6th place or something like that, just to see how fast we could be, because I was really quick on the intermediates as well. And it looks like my engine's a bit fried as well for just over-revving it a bit too much coming out of the pits, which kind of makes your engine overheat, which definitely really hinders your straight line speed. I know some people say it doesn't, but for me it actually makes quite a big difference, because I just couldn't get past anyone. When in the full wet, I could easily get past someone. So yeah, it sucks, but trying to do the best we can, because even salvaging any of these little points, which I know so well in season 9, where I lost the championship by 2 points and I disconnected from like 6 races. I know that any point can make the difference at the end of a championship. So we've still got like 18 races to go, so all is not lost at this point. But we're going to try and make it into 9th place now, so we're going to try and salvage something from this race, because I just wanted to just recover as the best as I could. But we've got Leo Bolt ahead of me, who's someone who's been racing these leagues for a very long time, so he's not going to be an easy person to fluster. I know he really likes to battle with people will to will. He doesn't really like to give up, so got to try and put him off here. We just got to get a move on really quickly now to the end of this race. We only got 7 laps of the race to go, and yeah, we're not in a good position. We're just in the points. We're going to get 1 point, considering where we were at the start of the race with 7-second lead. Now we're just in the points, so it just shows how quickly something can change. And as I said before, quite a lot of the time it's due to strategy, not just your race pace and consistency, which I felt I had this race, the race pace and consistency, but it's down to strategy. And I can only blame myself. I can't really blame the game. I should have known that myself, or it's a lesson learnt for next time in these conditions, because now I know what to do. And maybe just looking at the race director, that's something I could have done, and something I was really haunting me after the race, thinking that I just had so much time to do that, considering how slow I went in the pits as well. I had absolutely so much time to just do that, just to check, and it just didn't even cross my mind, because I just didn't even consider intermediates, considering how the car felt and everything. It wasn't even in my mind at all. So it's a really big lesson, and something that's yeah, it was pretty sour after the race. I wasn't happy at all with myself after that one. So, but it is what it is. It happens to the best of drivers. So you just got to push on, just forget it, roll on to next week, and just take the positives. The positives I could take out was the pace was seriously there, and the race-winning pace was definitely there. But yeah, there's not really too much to say, and yeah, as I said, just even watching this right now, it's just not great, pretty much. But we're into 9th place now, going to 6 skills to try and overtake him, who's another guy who I rate really highly, someone who's a bit of an unknown driver, but racing with him before, I know he's a really good driver. So again, go around the outside of him this time, so trying to get out traction of him here, and that is us into 8th place. So we got 7th place ahead of us, and I was actually looking at the group ahead, but they're just a little bit too far now, and despite how much pace or consistency we have, I think they're a little bit out of reach. So now it's Dizzy Cupid, who we saw in Australia was a very, very quick driver in the wet, but he seems to be struggling here a little bit at the moment around this track. Maybe it's not his best of tracks, but we are so desperate to get past him, and I really wanted this, just to salvage this point, just to do anything to just really create damage limitation. But you can see down the straight, just due to our engine overheating, it's pretty difficult to overtake. It's not much straight on speed, but we're going to go down the inside and hopefully go down this inside now and see if we can just salvage something from this. But no, we can't. So we've got to wait for the next corner now, and we'll go try out traction him from this one. And nope, we can't at the moment as well. Got a little bit of traction on Red Bull, but we think we're going to go down the inside for this one. Right-hander, just thinking about just trying to really just force him into a mistake for this one, trying to get good traction out of here. Don't manage to do so, so we've really probably got to wait for the straight. And yeah, at this point, just trying to get the 7th place. I was just going to try and treat this as trying to get a win. Just try and overtake him, and then just forget about this race, and then just move on to Russia, which will be in 2 weeks' time after this. So you can see coming off here now in the double left, really nice corner of mine, going up into here, focusing on the trail braking again, something you need to do quite a lot. So you can see trail braking there, and try and get a really good exit of this, because we're not quick down in the straight line at the moment. So you've got to get a really good exit of this. So hopefully he goes a little bit wide, which he does, staying nice and tight to the corner. Hopefully he makes a little bit of a mistake, which he does. He goes to the curb a little bit, but so do we. And we're going to go down into the slipstream now, see if we can just get anything. But you can see again, just not quick enough down the straight, and it's just not quick enough. And I don't think that's due to my wing or setup. I think that's just me just cooking the engine pretty much, just driving out the pits, probably being a little bit angry at the time, just over revving it, going down on the gears a little bit too quickly, and it can really cost you quite a bit, especially in the wet as well, where you need a lot of straight line speed. But coming off this corner, get good traction, but again, just can't manage to get into a good enough slipstream for this. So going through the first corner, breaking that board, or the last board on the left hand side, not going to go down the inside this time. So I was really just trying to focus and get them in the midfield sections, or probably out the double left. That's where I was really thinking of actually trying to overtake him. So coming off this now, looks like he's still got good traction and no real opportunity to overtake here. So coming through this corner, got a little bit of, well, we've got a AI car in front of us, but luckily we can go drive through him. Streets are disconnected. As you can see, he's going a little bit out wide now. So this is the corner I was really thinking of. So possibly going inside here or on the exit of this one. So you can see we're pretty much pushing Cupid for that corner now, and he's lagging a little bit. So we're going to go down inside for this one. Try not to make any contact, pretty nice and fair for this one. Try and force him to be really tight, and then try and go down the inside, but it looks like he's covered that off nicely, and try and get a really good exit of this one here now. He won't get slipstream from the car ahead because it's a ghost car, and now we're a lot closer than we were before. So this hopefully should be close enough for us to actually have an overtake. But again, look, the straight line speed, and I think he's lagging as well, and straight line speed is just not good enough. So we'll not go down the inside here. It's a very, very dangerous move, but we're just trying to put him off, try and make him a little bit nervous under braking, try and get a really good exit off here. So I was trying to get alongside him just to force him to stay to the left, but it looks like he's still got good traction at Red Bull. So again, take an early apex into this one like we did with Martin in the full wets. And again, he's got a bare exit, or just the straight line speed. It's just, we just can't do anything with how our injury is at the moment. So we're not thinking about this. Again, I was thinking about the midfield section, because if we could get ahead of him before that long right, then I felt it's pretty much game over from there. So trying to take these curbs nicely here, try and get good traction, and try even maybe even think about moving to here, because the traction up here is really good. So it looks like it's gone a little bit out wide here, slipstream into rich mix, but we're definitely not close enough for this one. Not even thinking about this, just trying to really focus on getting a really good exit off here, which we do. We get a really good exit, so hopefully for his fast left. Looks like he's been struggling a little bit through here, so we've got to take a really nice wide line, relay apex, and try and get down the inside first. So he can make it down the inside here, and no, we've just hit the back of his car. And with the contact model, you know, that was no one's fault there. That was my actual fault, in fact. Just clipping him there, and we've actually come out just ahead of Leobot, so luckily they were far enough behind. The tyres were most likely going off there that we managed to stay ahead of him. So that was it for the race. And yeah, as I said, watching this over again is incredibly painful, but I'm sure hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and we managed to salvage an 8th place doing an extra stop here. So not the result I wanted, and as you can see, weren't too happy with that result at the end of the race. So that is round 3 of AOR China, and hopefully we should have the championship standings on the screen here now, which showed you I'm actually in 4th place, 16 points behind despite that. So it's not actually as bad as it looks, but I would have liked to have had 25 points instead of 2 points. 23 points more would have put me right up there in the championship. So it's not all over. You never know what anything can happen in this championship. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. And I want to say thank you so much for 15,000 subscribers as well. It's I'm going to do a separate video on that, but a quick thank you to everyone who's ever watched me and supported me. It means so much. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video here today. Put it down in comments below anything you want to ask me. Rest in peace, Limitless, whatever. I'll enjoy reading. So thank you so much, and I will catch you next time. Cheers.